Hello and welcome back to the Thrive and Prosper podcast. I'm your host, Ari Page. And on today's episode, we're sitting down with someone who embodies what it means to chase a vision and refuse to settle. Kate King, founder of Greylock Homes, has carved out her place in the real estate world in a shockingly short amount of time. So get ready to be inspired as we dive into her story of grit, growth, and going all in on yourself. So Kate, welcome so much to our show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and get everybody up to speed on your background and on Greylock Homes.
Sure. So we started investing actually our first multifamily in 2016, and we were progressing pretty slowly. And, after a few years, realized it would be great if we could get some additional funding to help kind of catapult our progress forward and our acquisitions. And that's kind of how we stumbled upon Fund&Grow here. We saw something on Facebook and, thought it would be a great program to try out.
And what inspired you to get into real estate?
So my father, he had a construction business, and he had kind of pushed me into that direction. I've been licensed in real estate. I've had my real estate license since 2005, not to date myself. So I've been in, kind of indirectly or directly in real estate for decades now, whether that be through construction knowledge through my father, buying and selling properties, or acquiring our own properties.
And what type of properties do you generally focus on?
Ideally, we're looking for small to large multifamilies, but we also flip or buy single family homes, and we're interested in getting into mobile home parks, kind of anything along the lines of residential real estate to commercial real estate.
And are you in a specific footprint in terms of geography that you're investing in, or do you invest nationwide?
We do invest in land nationwide. As far as multifamily homes, we are interested in mostly southern New Hampshire and the greater New England area and Ohio as well. We're looking to kind of establish a footprint in Ohio in our next endeavor.
Awesome. And so you said you had ran across Fund&Grow from a Facebook post or something?
I think I saw, one of the things you start looking for if you're looking for funding, then we'll get kind of information on Fund&Grow because that's something we had shown interest in. So we started looking more into it. And we're also in a BIA group, and they had some information as well for Fund&Grow. So through Nate Larger. And so we decided to move forward with it this spring, and it's been great.
Oh, how cool. Yeah, I'm going to actually be up at the conference coming up in just a couple days next week.
Yeah,
I'll be speaking. Oh, you're going to be there?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Oh, awesome. Make sure to say hi. I'm going to be there, and I'm going to have a couple of my people there with me as well.
Cool.
So it's going to be really cool to see you there. Yeah, there's so many different people in that group have benefited from getting access to business credit cards. And how has your experience been with Fund&Grow? Has it been an easy process? And let's just tell people the way that it is. If there's been any difficulties, let's just lay it out and let them know. Because sometimes it's really easy to get access to a lot of funding, but as people know, sometimes it feels like you're walking uphill with a broken leg.
Sure, and I'd be happy to tell anybody, they want to meet me offline and ask me directly. I'm happy to give them my experience. So it's been very seamless. I think part of that has to do with, always making sure your credit's top of mind to be able to get those type of funds. And I know you guys work with people who maybe don't have amazing credit as well, because I've heard the full gamut of stories from people that have worked with you too, and they've expressed that they've had a very easy time, and you've helped coach them on how to get where they need to be. I didn't necessarily need that part, but I knew it was available. So it was very easy for me. Your team reaches out. They're very proactive. I know I'm due for my second round of funding, and I've just been very busy. They've been reaching out to me to get them some notes or bullet point questions they had for me for the second round. And, me being the bottleneck and getting that to them, they've been very proactive in reaching out to me. So I don't feel there's any concern about forgetting to do something, because they've been on top of everything. And I filled out what I needed to fill out. One of the people on your team walked me through everything A to Z over the phone. And then we found out some credit cards right away, what I was getting. And then within a week or so, I think it was, we found out the remaining balances, and it was very helpful for a project we were working on.
And you were involved with that process, like interacting with the banks
Yeah.
and okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. They helped me walk through exactly what to do. And it was very easy.
it was very easy. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, and that's, we know that it's easy, but it's also something that when you ask someone to do anything, and it's, they're like, wait, why do I have to do anything? But it is important that the clients that we're working with are working together with us so that because we can't just interact on the bank on your behalf without you being involved. So that's a really important thing. And Kate, would you be comfortable sharing how much funding you've received so far?
Sure. Yeah. So far, first round, we received 99,000. I know there's a second, I believe, third round. So I'm sure that will go up much higher than that.
So 100K on your first round. Very cool. And was it difficult using any of the different third-party payment services? Because we teach people, if you're trying to spend the credit card with a vendor or a contractor that doesn't accept credit card, that you can use one of the third-party services. Have you had to use any of those yet?
Yeah, I've used Plastique. It was very easy to set up. Kind of just if you're connecting like a bank account, you just add your credit card right in there. And then I was able to pay vendors directly from Plastique. They received their funds, within a couple of days, and it was a very easy process to set that up and to get them paid.
Yeah, that was my experience with Plastique as well. It's a great company to work with. And they just make it so easy. A lot of people just aren't aware that you can literally use a credit card for whatever you want. There's payment services. And of course, I'm glad that you did it the right way, because we have some, we hear horror stories of people that go off and try to do cash advances and different things. Don't do it that way, because then it's not going to hit the 0%. You're not going to be able to use the 0% period. And that's important. What was the longest 0% offer you've received so far?
18 months.
18 months at 0%. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, great.
And have you put it all to work, or are you, or do you use it for rehabs? Do you use it for like down payments specifically? How has it been helpful?
Yeah, so I know a lot of people who have heard use it. Maybe they're cash strapped, so they've used it for that reason. We've typically used our own capital, but this was great. So for kind of a more advanced strategy, what we've been able to do is use our 0% credit cards to fund. So we use this for a 3-family we purchased in Southern New Hampshire, and we use it for the rehab portion. So we're able to get 0% on the rehab portion. And instead of using our cash for the rehab portion, we were able to put it in some other hard money loans. So we were able to get, like, for example, 12 to 14% during these months on that money, and then have the 0%. Instead of tying that up, we've used it as an opportunity to grow our cash instead of tying up the capital in the project. Alternatively, it's great for people who just don't have the cash either, because then they could do the project for much cheaper than getting a hard money loan.
That's right. So whether you're arbitraging or whether you are in absolute need of the cash to be able to move forward, the business credit cards work great. So let's back up for a minute and take a bird's eye view of what your journey as an entrepreneur has been like so far to bring you to where you are today.
So at the beginning, like I said, we thought we'd have to save up everything and put a huge down payment, especially in other places. So we're in New England, where there's a very high cost of living here. The properties are very expensive. You could definitely utilize Fund&Grow for that rehab cost. But like I said, we've basically been growing very slow because the access to capital or the cost of capital could be very high. So now that we have the access to Fund&Grow, we look forward to utilizing that and basically being able to purchase more properties at a quicker pace than we would have been able to without using the Fund&Grow program.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And when you first heard about us, what was it that made you feel comfortable, like, moving forward with it? Was that you were already familiar with the concept, or was it just you were willing to try something new?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. And then just, knowing someone that's done the program and it worked for them. And then I spoke with some of the people on your team, and they were very on top of things. I looked into the Fund&Grow website, and just, I was very comfortable moving forward and, it seemed legit, and I tried it, and I'm definitely first-hand experience that it works. So.
And what other forms of funding have you utilized, like other loans?
We've done like personal loans or HELOCs, like home equity lines of credits or lines of credits on our investment properties, or just
Secured
taking,
loans.
yeah, and then we've refinanced properties and taken cash out and use that as well. But it's great to start using other forms besides just our own, so that way we can, expand faster.
Yeah, and I really like to emphasize this because all forms of funding are useful. Let's
Yeah.
say that we have an investor who's unable to move forward because they don't have the cash that you have. Then for them, it would be useful using a hard money loan, using a mortgage, even if they needed to get a BLOC or a home equity line of credit in order to kickstart things. It would, of course, be useful. But if you can get access to 0% credit that's unsecured, it's not even secured off anything. And one of the things that I love to bring up, Kate, is that what other loans have you ever gotten that pay you back, that give you rewards through either cash or airline miles? Do you have any loans that pay you, or do you have to pay them?
No, and actually speaking to that point, I just received, I think I don't have the total amount, but I could go back and check. I think it was probably a couple $1,000s back, on top of it being 0% recently. So a lot of cards have that introductory rate where if you spend X amount of dollars, you'll get either like $1,000 cash back or money, a certain amount of points that you can then convert to cash. So I think ours was recently, I just applied it to the payment on the Fund&Grow cards that we have been utilizing. And I think it was probably over $2,000 cashback rewards. So that on top of the 0%, like you said, it's basically paying us to use the cards.
Yeah, and in the case that any fees are generated from the third party services like plastic, sometimes the cash back literally covers those fees, or it may in some cases be even more than those fees. So now one of the cool things is if you are someone who likes to travel a lot and you use the different points programs for traveling, you can really maximize those points programs by doing things like, for example, if you have the American Airlines card, instead of spending the points directly from the card through the card program, go to American Airlines website, set up an account, then transfer the points from one to the other, and the points become worth a lot more. American Airlines direct points are worth more, but they transfer them point for point.
Yeah.
And so they become worth even more. And so there's a lot of really cool things that can be done with the travel programs. And in many cases, if you look at it dollar for dollar, you're getting almost double when you're getting it in travel rewards. But of course, not everyone's traveling. You know what I mean? So it's not always useful for everyone. Everybody could use the cash back. We've had months here where at Fund&Grow we're spending on our pay-per-click. So we could be spending $50,000, $100,000 a month on our pay-per-click. And I know every business has something that they're spending on monthly, whether it be a facility or electric bill or website cost or whatever it is. There's things that you're spending monthly. Why not put that on a business credit card that's going to give you 2% cash back on the things that you're forced to buy for your company anyway? We're not talking about doing any undue spending, any extra spending, just spending that you're already doing. Redirect it to a credit card. Like if you're doing a rehab and you have the card, why not cycle it through there just to get the cash back?
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah. Now, another thing is, have you ever dealt with any contractors that were less than honest?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, not on this particular project, but in the history of using contractors, of course, there's dishonest contractors.
So now, if you ever deal with one that you're unsure of, make sure to use the Fund&Grow credit cards, because you can always call and reverse transactions that are put on a credit card.
Yeah, that's great extra protection.
Exactly. So if you're working on a roof that needs to be redone and you're working with a contractor in a new area of the country that you've never worked with before, put it on a credit card. And you can easily reverse that transaction if you need to. And if that company doesn't accept credit card, that kind of tells you something too. But in the case of an escrow account, let's say you're putting money down on it on something, and you want to move it off of. Let's say you got 4 different Fund&Grow credit cards. You move 25, 10, 15, and you're moving all of that into your escrow account. In that case, you're able to just add all 3, 4, 5, whatever cards that you have, just move that money directly into an escrow account, and it's not something that you'll ever be able to. No escrow is going to allow you to go and swipe a card with them.
Right.
But plastic will allow you to swipe the card with them, and then they will either do the wire, the ACH, or in many cases just send us a check, just where it costs a little bit less. But with escrow, that's never something that the banks, that the escrow companies allow a credit card to directly fund. So that's why a third-party service is always needed. But in the case of like a roofing contractor, why are they not accepting credit card?
Right.
And in some cases, it can actually help if a company doesn't accept credit card, then, or they say, listen, we need to charge you 2% more because of that. Well, 2% paying 2% extra to make sure that it gets done on your timeline and that it's not red tagged and you are now dealing with the county, it might be worth it because it puts you in control of that transaction with this company. And this has actually worked in my benefit quite a few times. So using business credit cards as a form of asset protection is a very, very sound strategy when you're dealing with unknown contractors and companies.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's definitely one of our little resources and tips. Do you, by the way, have any books or tools that you recommend for people to help with what you're doing?
I would say, just go see what's out there. YouTube, you can always contact me. I'm happy to give information, especially if you're in the New England area.
And could you give your contact information? Let's give that real quick while we're talking about that.
Sure. My Facebook group, you can contact me there. It's just facebook.com/Greylock Homes. That's Grey with an E. So GREYLOCK Homes. Our Instagram is instagram.com/GreylockHomes1. You can message me there. I'm happy to give any information on Fund&Grow if they'd like to contact me directly. Real estate questions. Like I said, I've been in the industry for decades. I'm happy to answer any questions, especially local to the New England area. I've lived here my whole life. I would just say, if you're outside of this area, or even if you're in this area, join local real estate groups. That's the best way to network and get knowledge of your local market.
Yeah, definitely. Networking, just like what we're about to do with the upcoming conference.
Yep.
That is the best way to get out there and to learn more. And I bet you've probably been to a lot of different networking events. Am I right?
Yep. Yeah, I love meeting people, especially in the industry. It's nice to meet with kind of similar-minded people who know what you're trying to do, and just talk about different real estate strategies and financing strategies. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard for people to understand why they should pay money to go to a conference or to a mastermind or to a networking event. And once you understand it, it's like you're ready to pay, you're ready to be there, you're ready to make those connections because every connection is just worth gold. Do you have any advice that you would give to a real estate investor that is hesitant to use business credit cards for this purpose?
The advice I would give outside of just go for it would be to just be organized. So if you are starting to use business credit and you're going to acquire 0% interest credit cards or even loans, just, if you don't know Excel, just maybe learn Excel, learn how to track everything in Excel. It's very easy. You can just plug your stuff in. And you could put like your deadlines and, when the zero interest percent goes up or is over, and just, make sure you're organized at the beginning, and it should be pretty seamless. If you are getting into real estate and you wanted to use these types of business credit cards, I think, it's great for everyone, from a beginner who has no capital to someone who has a lot of capital and just wants to maybe make interest on their capital elsewhere, and then they could use the 0% to save money. I mean, I've saved thousands of dollars by just this one project by using the 0% to be able to put my cash elsewhere to earn a higher percent interest rate.
Yeah, it sounds like you're very organized, and sometimes people are a little bit concerned. They're like, well, what if I get 5, 6, 10 credit cards? And like you just said, you would rather put your money into something that's going to make you more money and use other people's money, unsecured 0% money, when it comes to direct investing. And that's a very strategic use of your resources and, of course, your time as well. A lot of people are just scared And I think that that's what it boils down to, is just being scared of using credit cards and not knowing like how that, it's not a typical thing. It's very alternative, let's say. And so that's also why it's a little bit easier. The experience of getting approved for it was remarkably simple. And
Right.
it's unlike the experience that people have gone through with other forms of funding, where they are asked to give just litanies of documents, and you got to give your first kid and everything as collateral. And so it's just a completely
Yeah.
different process. And a lot of times people, they ask, what does unsecured mean? Does that mean you can't secure me the credit? It was like, no, unsecured means it's safe for you. It's not
Yeah.
secured off your property or off your vehicle or off, anything of value. It's unsecured, and you still get access to the funding. So
Yeah, I think a lot of people too have learned from, maybe our parents, like, oh, you don't want to have credit card debt. But there's a difference between utilizing it properly for a business purpose and going on a shopping spree at the mall. You don't want to do the latter, because that's how you get into trouble, and you end up running up these high interest credit cards and lose your house. If you utilize it correctly for business funding, that's putting an extra tool in your toolbox to become better at real estate, put your dollars to better use. So that was a mindset that I kind of had to get out of too, because before, maybe 10, 15 years ago, oh, credit cards are bad. Well,
right.
Now there's a great way to utilize them to your benefit. And as long as you're organized and you use it correctly, for business use, and you're not, like I said, using them for personal uses and shopping, then you should be fine, and just be
Exactly.
responsible.
Yep. So basically, to emphasize the point, good debt versus bad debt. When
Right.
you know that you're investing in something that's going to generate an ROI, then you know that you're safe. And this is something that Dave Ramsey is always talking about how bad credit cards are. But then again, you can't get any other loan that comes with a 0% introductory rate of, you said, 18 months.
Yeah.
That's just not something that can be done normally without using an unsecured business credit card.
Right.
And none of these cards showed up on your personal credit report. Is that right?
Correct. Nothing's on my personal credit report.
Yeah. So that is really awesome. So do you have any words of wisdom or advice to help other entrepreneurs that are trying to get to where you are?
Yeah, I think that you need to, analysis paralysis is a real thing. I would say of course, you want to do your due diligence and analyze properties you want to acquire. But just jump in. I mean, a great way to get into real estate is house hacking. You can get up to a 4-unit multifamily under, an FHA loan. So that's a great way to get into it. You can use Fund&Grow if you don't have the capital to use to get into as a down payment for that property, potentially, getting it reappraised before the time expires on the 18 months, and then pulling out cash maybe to refinance it into long-term debt, and then just use that cash to pay up the credit card. So, I mean, you could ultimately use Fund&Grow to acquire a 4-family without, even having the best of credit, and get into a 4-family house potentially for, quote unquote, for free.
And Nate really teaches that you can even use one of the DSCR loans once you have it cash flowing.
Yeah.
Then you have options. And thank you so much for jumping on today and for letting everyone know your experience in the industry and what you're doing, as well as how Fund&Grow has been a small part of that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and speak about Fund&Grow. It's been a great experience. I'm actually going to message one of your team members after this and get them the document they need so I can get to the second round. And I hope to see you next week.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Kate. And it's been a pleasure talking with you, and you take care. I'll see you next week.